start with,
I think Mr. Gwinnett he talked to someone this week.
Yeah, I talked to Tom Couch first of the week. They said that we had to give them an answer by July 1st, because they still have to prepare the grant application and have it turned in by July 31st. So I thought they had already had the grant, but apparently they hadn't even applied for the grant. So that was one reason why we are having to try to get them an answer to, you know, to move on or not move on. And then the other thing that he told me is if Brooklet opted out, they would definitely stop at Grimshaw, and that would be the end of it. And that's really about all I learned from him.
the push for this is I'm gonna be out of town. I'm leaving Sunday afternoon and won't be back, so we would not be able to conclude this by July 1st. I'm gonna wait a little while with my family to get a little bit of a time away.
What is the expense if we decide later on, well, you know what, let's go ahead and do this?
Well, what Tom had told me about that is he said if y'all wanna come back 2 or 3 years later and try again, he said y'all will be on your own to get the grant and the money. So technically, he's saying that they would be out of it. Of course, I'm sure they might be willing to help us with the grant, but I don't know that.
Location wise, I think it'd be a wise idea if we're going to be in a different place.
I agree. I mean, I appreciate the comments from the community. I think each of us has gotten lots of comments. We appreciate the feedback. It is in terms of, I will admit, some of it was more professional, more courteous than others. But needless to say, I do appreciate it. And it's important to know and understand in terms of people's feelings, because it's obviously something that will significantly impact some of you and your families, pretty immediately in terms of if it's in your yard. So, I just want to say appreciate the opportunity to engage in dialogue with several of you, and I am looking forward to, in terms of us having a decision. Look, I think all of us are looking forward to having a decision.
And I'll just add, as far as comments on the meeting, appreciate everyone's patience with me being absent. We had a really bad situation in our family last week, and I needed to be with my family. And so I do apologize for bringing you all out here again. I'm sure this room was packed last Thursday, but I also appreciate the condolences that those of you, I see many of you in the room, have shared with us. So thank you for that.
One of the major concerns that I had in the city is that we have some that are for it and some that are against it. I don't want to see our town divided. I don't want to see that one person wants something where another doesn't. It's very important to me to make sure that each and every person has a say, has a voice, because that's exactly what you're supposed to have. I probably, within the period of the meeting that we had that night, at least 30 on my government email and probably even more on my personal email, which I appreciate each and every person. They were well thought out, they were well presented. I want to thank you for your voice. I want to thank you for your concerns. Everything that we do here, we try to do for the betterment of Brooklet. We always want to make sure that what we do, we're doing it for y'all. I'm elected by people to be for y'all, to council, as well as council back to y'all. I hope that I've always done a job of listening. I'm not a polished politician. I'm just a person who loves this town as much as y'all do. A citizen as well, a resident. Also, I'm a taxpayer as well. Each person on this council does not take this lightly at all, whether it's positive or negative to you. I pray that what we do, whether it be for or against, that you'll please understand that that is the majority has to be the decision. It's not what I decide, it's what y'all decide. And this council, believe me, it's time now that we make a decision. And as it was being told to us that we could come back to Tom Couch at a later time, but then we would have to apply for the grants. I want to make sure that what we do it for the best interest for Brooklet. and for the people that are living in that area. Yeah.
You want to start? Ready to start the voting?
Well, I have a question on that. I know that we have to indicate our ballot. So I'm not opposed to sharing my vote verbally and let everyone here see it. What does a little bit concern me is if we start with me, then those two guys could be casting what is perceived as the deciding vote. If we start with Jim, then Brad and I could be perceived as casting the deciding vote. And so what I would ask, if this is allowed, that we be allowed to submit a signed, written ballot that is then read, you know, Councilman Schlurf votes X, Councilman Gwinnett votes X. That way we're making our vote on our thoughts and not where it is in the lines.
You know, Greg, that's all well and good, except we're in front of the people we represent, and we should be able to make our statement irregardless.
I was gonna say, the only concern I was having with that is I'm not necessarily sure, without the attorney here, we would probably, if we're gonna change that method of voting, I think that we probably need
Yeah, I mean,
the attorney to give us that opinion. I can tell you this, I'm not gonna change it, doesn't matter whether I'm deciding or not, in terms of, I've
I'm not either.
spent a lot of thought.
All right, well, I'll go first then if you want me to.
Yes.
I'm gonna say yes to proceed with the grant application because I feel like it's for the best interest of this town in the future.
I vote no, because the people of the city has told me they don't want it.
My personal feelings is yes, however, the input I've received from so many folks, and it's not my personal position or opinion that counts, but it's what they want me to count. So I have to vote no.
I was gonna say, I gotta be long-winded in whatever I do, so I'll keep it to a minute. I was gonna say, first, I apologize, I know I'm gonna make, I've got friends on both sides, of this, controversy. I know I'm gonna make some of them upset, that's not my intent. I did spend, a good bit of time to my yes constituents. You know, I understand having a recreational, facility in our backyard is an absolute asset for us. To my no constituents, I understand in terms of not wanting to necessarily have that trail in your front yard with somebody walking through your front yard all times of the day or night. I think it's truly ultimately a great project for the city. I think it helps us in some areas, I think it hurts us in others, but ultimately, I can't agree with that at the expense of the homeowners who has got to be directly in front of their house. So ultimately, my vote would be no. I am vehemently opposed to a government that doesn't necessarily listen to the people who will be directly impacted. And I believe that the homes up and down Main Street will be directly impacted. I won't debate whether they knew it or didn't know it in advance. All I do know is I don't want to be that government that doesn't listen to those people who will be directly impacted. I will say this, I would challenge if the answer is ultimately at the end of the day is no, I think we need to address our walking patterns, because I think they do not necessarily need to be in the middle of the street. And so maybe we need to look at sidewalks. I know I was not a huge sidewalk guy earlier, but I have listened, and maybe we need to address that and look at that. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, may I alter my vote just a little bit? What I wanted to add to my vote was the folks that said no to me, predominantly it was no because of the routing of the path. It wasn't that they didn't want the trail, it was the routing. Just like that going forward.
Understood.
So I guess as it turns out, I vote kind of is irrelevant, but I do want to just state my point here. First of all, I've been on council for 8 years, and this is probably the first vote that we've ever taken that has the council has had an impact like this does. My general feeling on the path is that it would be a great asset for the infrastructure of Brooklet. But the two things that are making me lean to no is, first of all, the path location. And I'm looking at Keith Rowden right here. There's absolutely no way I could support a path that basically bisects his front yard. And because this is still in the planning stages, if I were to vote yes, I would have no guarantee to know where the path would be in any one person's yard. And I know there are others, but he lives close to where I do, and I walk past those flags every day and was just like, there's no way we can do this. But the second thing I'll say to all of you is that in 2 years, or whatever it is, when we propose a 2 or 3 millage point tax increase to help supplement the infrastructure of Brooklet, I don't want to see this room full. You're going to have to accept that we're giving up close to $1 million worth of infrastructure improvements for the city by making this decision. And the only way we can improve walking and biking in Brooklet on our own is through the city money. And so whether we raise fees, we raise taxes, or whatever, it's going to come back to the citizens. And so I would be greatly upset to see these same faces with the no buttons here protesting a tax increase because we want to put sidewalks down Lane Street, or we want to add sidewalks to Lee Street. Because as much as I hate to say it, you kind of can't have your cake and eat it too in this particular situation. And so my official vote is yes, but I do want to make everyone aware that we're going to have to do some infrastructure stuff, and it's going to cost money. I mean, we just spent $23,000 on something we didn't even know we had to replace, let alone let's just say we have to go from where the Ingram and Lee Street intersection is down around past the Pye House, the Wentz House, and down that way to do some drainage. I couldn't even begin to think what that would cost. And so that's the trade-off that we have. So my official vote on this, because of the routing of the path, is no. I would support but where the routing goes now, I can't support it.
We all heard what council had to say. I'm a no voting mayor, but I will speak on the park. I understand exactly what Councilman Slurp is saying, and there's a lot of drainage on that area that could have been built with the bike path. But at the same time, we also have a paving project that we've been holding up on this lane extension. These things come at a cost, as everybody knows. And there is always maybe an area that we can take and try to save money, and that would have been one of them. But still, at the same time, I want you to know that your privacy and your protection, well, that's number one. I want to make sure that everybody in this town understands we work very hard to make sure that you're safe by protection of the police and then everything else that goes along. And I thank you all for your time. I thank you for your voices, and I'm sorry for the ones that were before the trail. But a different location, at a different time, I think it works. I would like to see that we have other options than one. It's always nice to have another way to do this. I got grandkids that can't ride on bicycles other than behind a gate and a fence because I live on the Highway 80. That road is unbelievable now. It would have been nice to be able to see them be able to cross a little part of 80 with me, and we ride up Railroad Street to get on the bike path. But my one walk can't supersede what the town desires. And I'm like Slurp, that we're going to have to find ways to be able to do these things. And I am like Councilman Anderson. We need to make sure that our kids are on the sidewalk and that it is safe for them. That comes at a cost also. So I thank y'all. I really do. Each and every one of you.